So that is all of the large amounts of information. If you have questions about any of that, feel free to ask.
I have a question. So if ICE is trying to stop you in your car, how do you know if it's ICE? Do they have they don't, I'm assuming they don't have marked cars. And what happens if, do they have a siren and a light, or?
Yeah, I think probably if you were being pulled over by ICE, they might be in a marked car, or at least have a siren. And I think in that situation, they would likely show you a badge and say that they were ICE. I'm not totally sure, but I do think probably they would make it clear that they were law enforcement officials pulling you over.
Well, because there's also this question about even if you're just a woman driving and someone has lights on and they put the siren on and you don't feel comfortable because it's an unmarked car, and you just keep driving until you get to a place where you feel safe, like a parking lot of a police station or something. Would you be in more trouble from the ICE officer for doing that? Because would that be seen as evading their arrest, or can they do that?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would say probably, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I just wonder,
that's a good question.
You don't, if it's not a car that says ICE on the side, which I've never seen,
yeah.
How do you know, and how do you know to trust that it's not just some private citizen being a vigilante?
Yeah.
Well, more than that, there are women killed in this area a few years ago, people pretending to be police.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure, I guess I would say, but I can look into that. It's a good question.
I think you probably said this, but what are the situations when people do have to answer questions about documentation status?
What was your question?
What situations when people do have to answer questions about their documentation status?
That's a good question. Let me look back to be really clear. So if you are being detained or arrested, and you're not a citizen, you're supposed to provide documentation status at that time. Similarly, if you're driving and you're pulled over, you're supposed to provide, much as you're supposed to provide license and registration, you're supposed to provide immigration documents if you're asked for them. It's slightly complicated because, let me look back at that, sorry.
I think somewhere in here it says generally if you're a citizen or not, you still generally have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, in any situation you can remain silent. So that's more just when you might be asked for them. It's slightly, I'm trying to remember, because it's slightly different. I know you can't just be asked for your papers if you're pulled over and people are let me see that you're a legal resident. But I'm trying to remember exactly.
Kathy, were you at that training a year ago where the URI professor spoke? And she said it's not the immigrants, they don't have to prove they're here legally. The police and ICE have to prove that they're illegal in this country. So really, they don't have to say, I'm from Guatemala, I entered here legally. Just say your real name and that's it. But they never really have to produce the documents. Were you there for that one?
Most likely I was. But I don't remember specifically what her answer was on that.
Yeah, I think.
I'm not sure of that, but I think that was pretty interesting to me, that it's their job to prove their case. You don't have to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the only situation the only times that it's tricky are both if you're being arrested, because that is generally when citizens also have to provide a certain level of information about themselves, and also when you're driving, because you have to show your license. And I think in that situation, ICE could ask you for your immigration papers if they had good reason to believe that you are not in the country legally. So if you couldn't produce a license, because most states you can't get a license if you're undocumented, then they might say can I see your immigration documents? And I don't think that would be illegal on ICE's part. However, you still would have the right to remain silent. In that situation, would likely still be detained because you wouldn't be able to produce, like if you weren't able to produce a license, that's not legal. But I think that's sort of, like it's really, if you're arrested or if you're pulled over in your car, which are both situations in which citizens also have to provide some form of documentation.
You both might not know this, but I'm wondering if you know if Rhode Island is in a border zone, if it's considered border zone.
It is, yeah, because it's 100 miles from the border, which is the ocean.
So I'm wondering if that impacts how people have to present their documents if they're stuck under government.
Yeah, we already talked about that. Police is one thing, ICE is other things. ICE have federal right to do whatever they want, and they almost can do whatever they want, especially when we are in the border. Yeah, they have right to do everything. But police, still you can, for undocumented, you can like, if they stop you and they asking you for documents and you don't have it, you don't have it, and they can take you, they confiscate el carro.
They can
Can
confiscate
take-
your car.
But yeah,
Yeah, so the rule there is like within 100 miles of the border, ICE can pull anyone over and ask for their documents without reasonable suspicion. And because Rhode Island is like on the coast, that counts as a border.
Basically all trying to England.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
I really like to
yeah.
have the eastern seaboard. Yeah, or like obviously the southwest or the south or the north.
So how many ICE agents are there operating here? Just 2 in the state, was what I read, or more than that?
I think 6 or 7. They are few, but they are efficient. They work all the days, like Monday to Sunday. Yeah.
Do they work like round the clock, or do they stop at like 9, or like, do you know? Have you heard of them?
As we know, like as lawyers, but also the cases, like what we see is like more detention in the morning, like when people is going to work, but also more detention when they come back home. That's what we know, and yeah. I thought before I was innocent, and I said, okay, today is Sunday. We have a case like, oh, they're not going to do nothing because it's Sunday. They did stuff Sunday. They work Sunday. They don't care.
So one thing that we tell hosts is that if someone comes to the door and we don't recognize them, and then they identify themselves as ICE, not to open the door to them, because they're not welcome here. You know, it's a sensitive location, and they're not authorized to even be there. And if they do have a warrant, just to say, well, I don't know what that is, you just have to wait till I call the lawyer and have the lawyer come and question that. And even if they are to come into the building and say, well, I have a warrant, to kind of do the same thing, to kind of like just stall them and say, well, I don't know what this means, you just have to wait until I contact the host steering committee so they can contact the lawyer, and you can sit down and wait, but we understand we can't actually stand in their way, that they could just search the building, but we don't have to help them or talk to them or anything else. But that's our main stalling thing, is to say, well, you just have to wait until we get in touch with our lawyer to come look at that, and then maybe we can help you. But other than that, not to really say anything to them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, yeah.
Especially because you are church, you have more right than individual home. Yeah.
There have been instances where ICE has told an ICE watcher, you're not allowed to record me,
They don't like it. They are not going to like it.
but you are allowed to record
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, yes.
But
Yeah.
always have like space, like you need to have, I don't remember, but enough space between them, and you don't want to go like this in their face or something. You can do it like a little bit more close. Yeah, we have some, also if you are there like close to a home, you can say, oh, just I am like, the neighbor here or something. you know, like, oh, I come just for this or something. It's just not giving more information.
Do you do anything like, sometimes the police like kind of counter videotape, like I've been at protests and the police will all be there with their videotapes and like what happens with that? Are they allowed to like do anything with that or? It's such a weird thing, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I just heard something, what it says. You get point. If they detecting you're doing something like illegal or something like, they give you point each time, and that's mean you are more, how to say, available to make a crime or something like that. But I don't know if in this time apply, but that they do that with people. Yeah. I think that is the intention. When people doing a protest, they are like measuring like your, ¿cómo se dice? Comportamiento.
Okay, behavior.
Yeah, and you are going, yeah, you are some kind of future person like doing a crime or something against the law.
So they're mostly just trying to intimidate people.
That also, yeah.
Yeah. I also have not personally been usually in situations where they are recording. I mean, maybe they have body cameras, but I think often ICE is sort of trying to like get in and get out really quickly. And I think also generally doesn't assume that anybody's going to be there recording. It's like usually they'll just come, try to detain whoever they're detaining and leave.
Yeah, I saw a case, we have a real case, but I never showed the video to anybody. But yes, they do the work quickly. They don't care you, like they do their job and they pick people and just go. And that's it.
Do they come in unmarked cars? Can you tell what kind of vehicle they're in?
Well, often, not really. Like sometimes, yeah, often their cars aren't particularly marked. Sometimes they will have like official plates, or like they'll have a marking that marks them as like a government official car, but they won't say like DHS on the side. Sometimes they do, but usually not. One thing that is like not totally relevant here, although sometimes, is like that, for example, in Oregon, the detention center is in Washington, and so whenever there's cars with Washington plates around the courthouse, people like try to keep an eye on those because those can be the cars that are ICE cars. Not always, like Portland is right over the border of Washington, but that sort of thing, like here, if people aren't usually taken directly to Massachusetts, they're taken first to Warwick and then to Massachusetts. So usually they would have Rhode Island plates, but I think if they were like at a courthouse, a lot of cars with Massachusetts plates, like it's worth paying attention to, but it's tricky because like there's a lot of interstate commerce and travel. That's just to say, yeah, it's hard to tell what ICE cars look like or what ICE agents look like until you've really like seen them enough times that you know who they are.
Yeah, we tried to see that, but it was so difficult.
Do you know if there's any local female ICE agents?
I am not sure.
No idea.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
There's one.
At least one.
Oh.
One?
I talked to one on the phone once, one. She hung up on me, but I had, someone gave me a number for ICE and I called it and a woman answered and I said, is this ICE? She said, yeah, who's this? How do you hit this number? And then she hung up on me, but yeah, it was one woman. At least one then.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't, I would say we're still in the like trying to figure out who the ICE officers in Rhode Island are.
We don't know them.
So Steve has seen ICE, people with ICE, like ICE hat and ICE jacket on Thayer Street.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are they actual ICE people or like do people imitate ICE officers or impersonate ICE?
They were there getting lunch. I was in a place, they were there getting lunch.
Yeah, they are, yeah. I think we also, like 4 months ago, somebody put, oh, ICE is gone in the, what is the name of that place for, yeah, they are there, like,
Yeah.
of course, they are taking lunchtime and they're human being also. They eat, they go to shopping, even though like pharmacy or stuff like that. They're in like with the
But they have ice apparel on.
yeah.
Yeah, these guys did, sure.
Yeah.
They were like,
I mean, they probably are. Like, not all ICE, hashtag not all ICE officers wear plain clothes, but most of them do. I think it's more like if they're wearing a uniform, that doesn't mean they're not an ICE officer. I think in that situation, that's a time when it's useful to like keep an eye on them, and if you know, to like note what they look like and see if they pop up again. But it's just hard to know because I think particularly because there's a pretty low level of like detention in spaces that are outside of people's homes. Like most of the people that we know have been detained either while they're still incarcerated at the ACI or at their house. And so that means
or at work too.
Or at work,
When they know where is people working, they go there and just waiting outside the place and pick them.
But like less frequently in situations where somebody was prepared to record, or like at a courthouse where a lot of people are around watching, or something like that. And so I think as an organization, we're still trying to figure out like how to know who ICE is here.
Have you known of any checkpoints that ICE set up since we are in a border zone? Like, have there been cases where they did that in Rhode Island? Like, you hear rumors, and then you hear not to spread the rumors because they make everyone panic.
Yeah, that is rumors we heard, but it's not like, if we don't prove it, how we are going to believe in rumors, because that is also confuse a lot of people. It's like, oh, I saw ICE, so it's like, sometimes it's police. You need to check, like, really is ICE or who is, like, exactly, because we have different kind of, how to say, like, ¿cómo se llama? Agentes. Yeah, agents here, like, police and this and that. It's like, okay, but not always ICE. We can say that.
Cool. Well, thank you all for
Thank you.